Welcome to another episode of Breaking Kayfabe. I'm the Sauce Boss, and today with me I've got the handler of Johnny Bacchus. Johnny, how you doing today?
What's poppin', man?
Oh, it's just another day in paradise, the universe that we know as the efed verse. I understand that you've been pretty busy. It's been a big year for Johnny. Tell us about what you have going on right now.
Oh man, where do I even start? Especially with it being this morning. So right now I'm working in two federations right now. I'm in Colt Wrestling, where I am the Colt New World Champion. Yay! And I'm over in WGWF right now. And it looks like, according to the trickle of results coming in from last night, I have also been kidnapped by the Arcadia Consortium too. So
Uh-oh.
never a dull day for Johnny Bacchus, right?
You kind of had that coming, though. You poked the bear a few too many times. It was only a matter of
Yeah.
time before.
I like to describe it as whistle blowing.
Okay.
Okay. Whether that is entirely Johnny's motivation, uh, being purely selfless, or if there's, I think obviously a little bit of emotional, uh, motivation behind the whole thing. Yep, no, definitely did poke the bear too many times there. Probably,
So
probably should have shown
I'm
up.
familiar
Yeah.
with Johnny and his his whole vibe. But for those of us, the listeners who may not know Johnny very well, give us a quick little rundown of what he's all about, what his motivations are.
So Johnny is kind of a complicated character at this point. He has evolved dramatically since I started playing him 2 years ago, when he was just kind of this collegiate dropout punk rocker Bay Area like shithead, essentially. Life came at Johnny really goddamn fast when he started wrestling, and he kind of went from I would not call him a joke character. The character was never meant at any point to be a joke, but had comedic elements to him. So the backstory on Johnny is that he literally was signed to a wrestling company after submitting an application purely to keep collecting unemployment insurance during the pandemic, because California made you show proof of your job search history to keep collecting unemployment. Um, and yeah, he just ended up getting this job as a wrestler. And then rather than burning out, he was surprisingly adept, because a big part of Johnny's character is that he was, especially in the early days, though kind of less so now, brilliant, but very lazy and kind of this disaffected slacker a little bit, right? So the way that things have gone now, he's gone from these roots to kind of over time, and especially surrounding this storyline, he had this with this group called Philidor Holdings, which Lissy Hope was a part of, and that's where the whole Lissy Johnny things also kind of gets its roots in. After that story ended, he began working with actually the former face of the Philidor faction to form this group Insurgencia, which is now called VLI. That's like my little joke about like our indie name, kind of like the revival became FTR. And now I would say the character has kind of evolved into a little bit less of the silly guy, and an overt court jester, and more being sort of a deadpan snarker who is really still good at mind games. I think he kind of obfuscates a little bit of the silliness, and then when the mask comes off, you really see how kind of calculating Johnny is. And I wouldn't say manipulative. I think that's the wrong word. That has a very negative connotation, because he's a pretty straightforward face. But just he's a trickster at the end of the day, who takes a certain kind of militant revelry in shoving it in the face of bastards and getting under their skin through some of this, on one hand, mockery, but then his ability to kind of pivot on a dime towards these more cerebral elements of the character. So that's kind of how I would explain Jonathan Bacchus at this point. I mean, even the character, even though it is not stuck in the general vernacular, I made a point that with this more kind of straightforward and more, I hate the word serious, but more nuanced and layered and a bit of a darker shade to him, since he's like come back, that he's been Jonathan Bacchus rather than Johnny, but nobody fucking calls him that. Everyone still calls him Johnny. So I'm like, we'll just deal with it, you know?
Yeah, if I can summarize my impression of Johnny, I had the pleasure of being able to work with you earlier this year. Johnny comes off as just very punk rock, you know, this rebellious, like this trickster god, you know, like a Loki type figure, calculated, but you know, it's certainly not the lackadaisical character that you described him as being in the early days. He's matured quite a bit, and it sounds like he's discovered that he's a real talent for this, and that makes him super scary. So my question to you would be, what has been the reaction from the community to the character? It obviously it's overwhelmingly positive because everybody wants you to be part of their project. But go ahead and talk a little bit about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, and especially because I've been playing Johnny for a while now, it's very interesting to see how people respond to him a little bit, because I noticed that people's on Twitter, specifically in character, their reaction and treatment of Johnny tends to center around whether you have only interacted with him over Twitter or if you've kind of crossed paths with him somewhere. There's a you know, like I've right now this last month been feuding with Matt Knox over in Colt. Who's facing me in my first defense of the Colt New World Championship. And I think if you go read the kind of tweets that Knox and I were sending in character to each other, there's, to me, this very very telling or demonstrable shift in how Knox begins talking to or posturing himself towards Johnny after we dropped our role plays, right? Where at first Knox was kind of, you know, dadding him a little bit, or like kind of questioning, do you actually have this in you? You know, you seem like a good kid, you know, you just had to nail your girlfriend to a cross. Maybe you shouldn't get wrapped up in it. This, you know, right? Like, and then and I think it's, if you read that role play I just posted, the Black Paintings, where Johnny just kind of goes full mask off. And it really, the reaction to me struck me as like Matthew Knox, the character, being kind of shocked to like, oh shit, this is what this guy's actually like, face to face in person, with his cards completely on the table. And maybe like I have seriously underestimated this guy, or not understood that I was kind of dealing with a facade a little bit, or like this kid's got a lot more depth to him. So that's been intriguing. Twitter is a really, how would I put this? It's both a great platform for role playing, and it can be a terribly frustrating one for me too, because I think people, like, there's so much potential to interact and do like casual free role play that allows you to develop relationships with people, you know, between characters, flesh out story and whatnot. And I know this is me beating a dead horse, because I've said this on plenty of podcasts before. So I apologize for saying on yet another one, but it tends that people, rather than that, like spending Twitter, like just hanging about, chewing the fat, you know, not really engaging with canon a lot, or as I'll put it, you know, and this is absolutely nothing against this character or handler who I think very, very highly of, but it's always very funny to me how many people are very friendly or casual towards Reagan Voorhees, who is essentially a serial killer, you know, like one with just very, very good publicity. And like Reagan Voorhees is such just a monstrous shithead and so casually cruel and doesn't even like really hide her disdain and her like just misanthropy even on Twitter. And how many people are like, you're so funny, Raven or Reagan. Please show me the pig again. You know, like it's just, oh, Jesus Christ. Like you guys are actively demonstrating her gimmick as a villain with good publicity who like basically just walked into the room covered and soaked in blood. And as you're all staring, she just holds up a cute baby animal and everyone cheers as, you know, in her eyes, you see absolutely nothing. So, I mean, hell, on the other hand, maybe I'm the one being played here. Maybe is people selling the gimmick as perfectly as possible. But sometimes, man, when I see some heels, I wish people would just be like, why would I be nice to you in character? Like you're a rotten bastard, right? So that diatribe aside, and I only ever bring it up because like several times as playing Johnny, sometimes you'll get, and the Arcadia thing was really interesting, you know, you point out like how this is kind of sus, how this is no matter, like literally on the tin, exclusionary bullshit. Are you exclusive? And pointing out the ridiculousness of everyone could be exclusive. Like, no, if everyone's exclusive, no one's exclusive.
Right.
But then you're accused of shitting on the party or being sour grapes or whatnot. And don't get me wrong, Johnny definitely had some sour grapes. But I tried to, when crafting a lot of his more angry posts, you know, once he had gotten like some sufficient flack from LC Pinkston, to launch into some deeper points about the whole thing and calling out the stuff lying underneath. And now I just had a lot of people be like, oh wow, he's annoying, he's having a meltdown or whatnot. And so you win some, you lose some with it, but it is what it is.
This is a really good topic, and I want to comment on it because I think you're completely right. And the way that people use Twitter varies from one handler to another. Handlers like yourself you're careful about what you reveal, and you save a lot for your role plays, and you will feed your Twitter audience, you know, bits of information you want them to have, and then if they play along and if they role play correctly, they kind of feed you a little bit information back to play off of, and then it becomes a really immersive experience. On the other hand, you have a lot of people who blur the lines between what's in character and what's out of character, and they are posting just to keep engaged with the community and just to keep relevance, right? So they're not so much telling a story, but reminding you, hey, I'm still a big deal. Pay attention to me. And it's such a hard thing to resist, right? Because it's such a good feeling.
I do not want it misconstrued. I am not like talking down on anyone who does do that. I understand that, like, obviously we have a very competitive hobby, right? Like nobody wants to feel alienated because they played their character a little too real and therefore everyone hates you, or you have to hate everyone and you don't have any friends or whatnot. Like I had an experience when I was feuding with Lissy Hope before the characters, were romantically involved back during the Philidor story, where I was selling it very straight on Twitter that like Johnny and Lissy do not get along. And here's me and Lissy's handler in like DMs coordinating our attacks on each other and our arguments, right? And even though Lissy was the heel, it was very funny how in a funny and a bitter way a little bit of how excuse me, much support still rallied around Lissy on Twitter just for Lissy being Lissy, essentially. And it at times, like I'd have to get little pep talks from Lissy because I'd be like, fuck man, like I'm the face in this. And I just feel like profoundly alone on Twitter right now, you know, like I'm having people in my replies who I've never even fucking heard of, like coming at me for like calling you out for, I don't know, like stepping on a puppy on live television, you know, calling me like a hater and whatnot. Like, so it can be hard in these. And for that reason, I do understand. Funny enough, Lissy had a very similar situation about a year later when she was feuding with Cypher. Who is Miss Cypher. He's a fantastic guy. I really want to feud with him if he ever comes back. I did listen to Lissy episode, and you know he's off to the great real person job in the sky right now. But man, so anyway, you know, and yeah, like Cypher in this storyline had like literally been like hacked and like was leaking Lissy's like nudes online with the story, like just monstrous, disgusting behavior. And as Lissy is like calling some people out, like, hey man, I thought you were my friend. Why are you palling around with Cypher? These like she would then get these like in character responses like, wow, why are you being so divisive right now? I can be friends with both people, thank you. And like, no, it's like Cypher is like a disgusting, creepy incel. He's a monster. You know, why are we rehabilitating these people in character? You know, at what point is not wanting to rock the boat kind of, I guess you could say, blurring the lines on canon or kayfabe or whatnot? And again, yeah, I probably think too much about this stuff, but outside of my full-time job, this is my stupid hobby. So, like any of those things. Yeah.
It's an interesting concept, and Johnny kind of fits this mold of the anti-hero as well. I mean,
yeah,
for all intents and purposes, he's the face of the situation.
Yeah.
And we've kind of talked about this before, that he has good intentions. He may be chaotic good in some respects, but on Twitter, I think people tend to root for chaos, you know? So when you see a character like Regan, or like Cypher, who embrace chaos, they tend to get a lot of positive feedback. So it you know, when those lines between what's in character and what's out of character get blurred, it can get a little messy. And you can kind of lose the story in the process. So I certainly understand how it could be immensely entertaining and fun to be a part of, and then it can be frustrating too if the message isn't quite getting across correctly, which I would imagine you probably have experienced both and will continue to do so based on the character that you run.
Yeah, and let me say, when I point out like Regan and I point out Cypher, I point them out because they are two of, I think, the like two of the best villains that I've read in efedding. I have never made it a secret that I love high concept characters like the two of them. So you give me a like quasi serial killer, potentially cannibalistic heiress, and a, you know, like bug-eyed dangerous hacker, like, oh, sign me up, man. Like, how can we work a program together? And I did work a program with Regan, and I'm sorry, Regan, I know it's pronounced like that, but I did work a program with Regan in action wrestling, and her and Johnny were fantastic foils to one another. Like, these are two characters who could not be more diametrically opposed to one another. And I think it led to some really, really wonderful and acerbic role plays between the two of us that I just delighted in reading. And every now and then I'll still reference some things from Reagan's stuff. So I think that's a testament to the power of a well-crafted villain that, you know, just revels in being openly monstrous. And yeah, I don't know. Keep doing it, people. Let's get more high concept stuff. The more Street Fighter efetting gets, the more fun it is, in my opinion.
That raises an interesting comment. You mentioned the power in having a maniacal type character, and there's been I think the old trope of the 7 foot monster as being the most powerful, most dangerous character in your federation. I think that has kind of gone away, and now we live in a more androgynous age where being powerful and being dangerous is a lot more than just about size and about muscles. So it's so incredibly entertaining to see a character who's got a brings unique skills and
Yeah.
and and is more of a cerebral assassin to the equation. And I know for you, Johnny's not a very big guy, right? So that
Oh
has
no,
to.
no. Johnny is like, I think just I if I remember, the weight I set him for is literally 1 pound over the cruiser weight limit. He's I think 206 pounds.
There you go.
And he only stands like I think 5'10" or 5'11", something along that lines. He is I'm just supposed to be an average guy, if not a little bit twinky, right? Like he's based on a bunch of people I know from the Bay Area. If anyone ever at any point wanted to call Johnny a dyed hair SJW, it would genuinely not be far off the mark, honestly. It's always funny when I read people calling him an emo because I'm like, that's the Gerard Way base pick. Like if you really like dialed in on this, you'd be like, you're just another one of those shithead kids that pulls on a balaclava and goes and breaks bank windows at any chance possible, which is really how I intended the character to be read or seen by people.
So I've got an interesting question for you.
Yeah.
And tell me if I'm misrepresenting the character, but Johnny is always seen to me to be like the rebel king, And now that you are the new world champion at Cult, which is the most rebellious of all the federations, what's left to rebel against? You've now become the villain of your own story.
No. That's quite easy to actually go into. This really just comes down to the guy getting his stuff free and allowing things to go forward. But you are correct. There's a bit where Johnny's story, in terms of the title stuff, where can it go? And this is where I think more communication and more definition of what your intentions are and how people should react to them is important for me. Because Johnny, from here, who's he rebelling against? And the answer is Casanova English. If you've followed Lissy's feud with Casanova, you'd know that Johnny is a huge part of it. And he has been through it, this kind of very close to the chest guy about what his motivations are. Because I won't say he's played both sides, but it all began with Johnny doing some work for Casanova English, which Lissy found out about and was, obviously furious and horrified and whatnot, because this is this man she loves working or doing some kind of work for this man who hates her and, openly wants to harm her. And Johnny will also not elaborate on why he's doing it, other than saying, trust me, I know what I'm doing, and everything is for the betterment of us. But on the other hand, as this has gone along, it's sort of become this almost Cold War game of chess between Johnny and English, even if English doesn't kind of see it that way. As even if he has kind of seen Johnny as more of a piece in his, or like a piece on the board in his fight with Lissy. Like I ended my role play for the Colt New World Championship against Lissy with a line that went something along the lines of Casanova English made a miscalculation. He believed he was making forging a nemesis out of Lissy Hope. Instead, he's forged one out of me. And so now going forward, because Johnny hates this guy that runs this company. Um, Even holding the belt, he has very little desire to be English's dancing bear. I think he sees it as, and I have this in my role play against Knox as a point that I kind of go and I knock at Knox with, is accusing Knox of kind of being a ringer that English has sent in to essentially mop up the mess because it didn't matter who won between Johnny or Lissy. English just wanted to pit them both against each other and then hope that he get them both out of the picture, essentially. So it's like, sorry, bud, but I have to kick your ass too, just to give another fuck you to Casanova English. And then from there, keep them coming, because the longer I hold this, the closer I can get towards this guy to shove this in his face, or to finally go for the man that I really want to, which is, the top guy in the company, essentially.
I love the anti-authority angle, as a child of the 80s and 90s.
I was going to actually, even as I was saying this, it reminds me, and this is not intentional, it just hit me right now. I'm like, there is, I guess, a little bit of Stone Cold versus McMahon in it, right?
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Through the filter of cult, my concept.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's very anti-authority, but through this lens of like a universe of Batman villains, coexisting within the same building. It's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of everything that those guys are doing and what you're doing with Lissy and some of the other folks over there. We're going to be wrapping things up here in a few minutes. Before we do that, I'm going to open the stage here and let you promote any projects you've got coming up or any other folks that you want to shout out to. The floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me start out by promoting. As I've said, just dropped a piece for Colt Wrestling for my title defense there. Really proud of this one. It's called The Black Paintings. It is on my Twitter. I think you have to probably scroll back a little bit through it, or I can send you the link here to just attach alongside when you post this.
Sure.
One of my favorite pieces I've written in a long time. I had to really edit this one because I remember sitting down the first draft and being like, boys, did I get way too cute? Is this too heady? But I'm really happy with how it turned out. Obviously, now that we know I have been dragged off by basically, two Mugsies over in Arcadia. Keep an eye on that. Let's see where that goes. Because I'm sure they are just going to turn me over to the police, right? Why would they not do that? WGWF, just keep posted. I've got a role play that's going to be dropping in a couple weeks over there. And shout outs I just want to give for people I have not mentioned so far today. Let me just start out with Grace Leary, aka Ruby Goldhirsch, same handler. Grace Leary is not on Twitter because it doesn't make sense for the character. One of my best friends probably my best friend in this game, out of character, has become one of my best friends to a point. Consider him a real life friend at this point. Give them a shout out. One of the best writers in the entire fucking game. Does not get very much attention just simply because not on Twitter. Shout out to Datura, JJ Slayer, Serenity Holmes, Alice Gemini, who is going to become one of the next big villains. I think over this next year, just of the community in general. Phenomenal player. Max Damon, Harvey Marks, and oh my God, no, I'm going to forget some people, and then I'm going to get a bunch of angry DMs about it. Yeah, shouts out to Knox, Cass, Chris Page, Fred Debonair, who I've been working with over in WGF, really sweet guy. It's been really, and anyone who I've just connected with over these past 2 months since leaving Action Wrestling and kind of going rogue. Oh, and shouts out to Spencer Adams. Jesus, there was the one I knew I was forgetting. Shouts out to Spencer Adams. So, who's killing it over in WGWF in a very short amount of time. So, yeah.
Well, I'd also like to add that Johnny's going to be he's going to be appearing in the World Series of Wrestling this year.
Yes.
That'll be coming up in October. Johnny was nominated by Vodka Black, so she did reach out to me and said, "Hey, you might want to look at Johnny as somebody to consider for the competition." And I hadn't worked with you at the time, and then got to know you better. I said, "Oh yeah, this is a no brainer. Johnny's great. If he is interested, I would absolutely love to have him." So very happy to have you on board,
I'm really excited to be on board.
Yep, and thank you to Vodka for reaching out. She's been really helpful scouting out
She's
talent for the
great,
show.
man. Yeah.
She's people don't realize the conversation she has behind the scenes, because she has such a strong physical presence on Twitter and in some of these feds, but she also does a lot of work in behind closed doors that people don't see, and I appreciate it, and I just wanted to make sure that she got a little bit of credit here. For
absolutely. I was talking to her last night. She's fantastic, and cannot say enough good things about Vodka Black.
Yep. Well, hey Johnny, I hope that everything works out with Arcadia, and that you return to us in one piece.
Thank you.
My comments on Arcadia from the beginning have been that it's super sus, and I don't trust it. But I'm very excited about the project. They've done a wonderful job with marketing on the front end.
Whoever's doing all that coding and stuff like that, man, talk about a goddamn workhorse. Like it's cool.
I've seen some of the leaked information as well, and I won't share that, but there's some exciting things coming up with Arcadia. You don't want to miss it. Johnny, I don't know how much you know or how involved you are, but from what I've seen, the teasers I've seen have been pretty cool.
I just hope people stop accusing me of being Arcadia, because that was so goddamn funny, that period where everyone's like, is Johnny the one running this? Johnny? And I was getting messages like, no, leave me alone. I'm not Arcadia.
Well, that should be a flattering thing. It should be a sign that you're above the target, that you're doing the right things. Somebody recently asked me if I was the efed watcher, and I said no, but thank you. That is so kind. What they're doing is so good. I'm a big fan, and I'm in no way associated with that project. But it's funny that people connect their own dots. And anyway, I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I'm really happy to have you on the show, and I think this is where we call it a day. What do you say?
All right, sayonara.
Yep, so from the handler of Johnny Bacchus and from your boy Saucy at This Is Awesome Promotions and Breaking Kayfabe, thanks for coming around. Be excellent to each other, and we'll see you all again down the road.